Have you ever wondered what it takes to run your own business? In this episode, Chris and I share the journey of starting multiple six-figure businesses, from my hair salon to his real estate to our online coaching. We share the mindset and the determination and the tactics and tools that we use to be able to move through any time we were faced with challenges or told no. We share how you can make it past the breaking point where so many people give up because they're afraid to fail, or they're afraid that they aren't perfect. So in this episode, you'll hear how we failed our way to success. Hey, we're Britt and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life Podcast. Throughout the 13 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation, we found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place, because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be. So my dad tells this story. When I was 6 years old, he said that I could collect aluminum cans in the trailer park where we grew up and exchange them for cash. And that planted the entrepreneurial seed in my mind at 6 years old. And he said I collected all the cans in the neighborhood, and he took me up to the shop to exchange it for money. And the man was sitting there and he was eating his lunch. And the man says to me, "Oh, excuse me, miss, I shouldn't be talking with my mouth full." And my reply was, "As long as you're talking cash, I don't care." And I think that was the beginning of the ability to be able to make money and support myself doing things that I actually enjoyed. I mean, I'm all about keeping this planet clean, and it was one of those things that it didn't feel like a chore or a burden. And now looking back at all the businesses we've created together, it's always been something that I or you or we are passionate about. And it's so interesting that I got started then, because both my parents were entrepreneurs and I didn't know anything different.
You know, it's so interesting, you just the way you lead in to this, because this was something that I knew that very first time I met you. I knew that you were passionate. And, you know, if you've ever met an entrepreneur, if you're not one, if you've ever met one, they look at life differently. They see things in a different way, because for a lot of them, they're waking up and doing something that they love. It's one of the biggest secrets in life, is that if you're not waking up every day and doing something that you love, then it's time to change what you're doing. And that may not mean that you can change it today. It may not mean you can change it tomorrow, but it means that you immediately begin working on a plan to do that. You know, we've got about 8 hours a night that we sleep or should be sleeping. We've got 8 hours at work. That leaves us 8 more hours in the day. And so during those 8 hours, if you don't wake up and feel like my life is just the best thing I could imagine, then it's time to start spending those extra 8 hours when you're just fudding around with your phone or watching every show, to start planning, to start prepping, to start going somewhere. Because when I met you, you were working at Claire's, you know, piercing people's ears and stuff like that.
And Forever 21.
And Forever 21,
I
that's
was
true.
all about that double hustle.
It's true. And I realized at those moments that you had so much passion, but you did not yet have an outlet for it. You did not have that career. You did not have something that you could absolutely pour yourself into and give yourself to in a way that made you fulfilled. And that's why early on I was like, you got to quit these jobs. The stuff that you're doing is killing you. It's killing what your potential is. And I knew that you had so much, because those 8 hours, or those few hours that we spent together where we weren't working and we weren't sleeping, we're always talking about what we were going to do, what we were going to create. For you, it was going to be hair. I mean, that was literally the only thing you ever talked about.
Oh my God, I remember that time during Sexy Time. You looked down at me, you're like, "What are you thinking about?" I'm like, "This haircut and this like color formula, and if I do this and if I start with this developer," and you just looked at me like, "Are you kidding me right now?" I mean, that's what kind of passion I'm talking about, like where you are consumed by the creative expression of it. Like you are so moved by the things something that you're interested in, that you can't stop thinking about it in a healthy way. Obviously, like, infiltrating sexy time is like, overstepping some boundaries, but that's just like how I was so young and so eager, and I didn't know a lot about intimacy either back then. So
you're driven. And I mean,
Yeah.
and I think that was the other part, is your drive to do it. Not only were you excited about it, but you're so driven. And, in the beginning, I'm don't even know if I want to say this, but you weren't that great. You were better than average. You were definitely better than everyone, or at least from the people that I remember at your beauty school. You definitely excelled, but it wasn't like to the level. I mean, you're obviously nowhere where you're at now, but it didn't matter. Like, you didn't let the fact that you didn't know anybody, or that you didn't have any clients, or that you were still learning, or that you were still in beauty school, it didn't stop you from doing anything. It literally just made your passion more. Like, how can I do this faster? How can I do it more often? How can I go screw up? Like, why wait until I'm done to make the mistakes when, like, this, everything's, all the stakes are higher now? Like, why not start doing it now? And I feel like for so many people, what they do, for one, most people are not passionate about something, or not super driven. And people always wonder, what's my purpose? Well, figure out where your passion's at. And then most people don't align that with a business. And a business is all about figuring out who you want your client to be, figuring out what their problems are, and then packaging a solution to them that they can understand.
Oh my God, that's exactly what we talked about in the Passion and Purpose bundle in the Elevated Life Club. Because what we have found is that if you pair your passions with the ability to be able to create good in the world and create an income, I mean, hello, win, win, win for everybody, because you love what you're doing. You don't show up at your job like resentful and like you don't want to be here and you're just punching numbers in a keyboard. Like, you show up with heart. And that makes the difference.
Yeah, you don't wake up, 20 years too late and say, what was I doing that entire time? Business is really about discovering how it is that you can align your talents with helping people, and figuring out what it is that those people are just like so desperately in search of. And it can be some of the smallest. It could be entertainment for one. I mean, it can literally be anything.
Which is easy to do now.
Yeah, there's so many more ways to entertain people. There's so many ways that people consume, like basically stress-free activities. And it was great to be able to watch you blossom. And that was one of the big things, to me. Obviously, a person's looks are a certain thing, but like you were just so, and I don't know if it was more that if there was an obstacle in its way that you would just burst through it, if it were that, or if there were that thing about you, or if it was just that you were so passionate that you didn't care about the obstacles. Like, they just didn't matter. Like, they would shrink as you came up to them. Like, that was always the feeling that I had. You just kind of took no for an answer. And it's been beautiful watching you blossom and watching you learn more. I mean, you have no business background, did not go to college. And for you to not let anything limit you, whether it be money or expertise or education or literally anything, I think is a testament that there are so many people that hold themselves back because they use these silly excuses in their head.
Stories.
That something is not, that they're not good enough at one thing or another, or they failed a few times before. I mean, we have failed and failed. We have done so many things that didn't work. And I think that was the fun part, because it made us like go back home and scratch our heads and realize, oh my God, we just spent all of our money doing something that just sucked.
Oh, and we got to walk around the movie theater parking lot and be those people who put shit on your windshield to let you know that I offer cuts and colors.
Well, I mean, the journey for entrepreneurs is a hustle one. And it's more beautiful now because we have online, you can pay for ads and you can do all that. But in the beginning, we didn't really have that. I didn't know what an ad was. I didn't know about, what do we have? Like basically Yellow Pages? I mean...
Oh, we used MySpace.
Oh my gosh, MySpace. MySpace was the beginning. So...
Well, that's how we met.
It's true. It's true. Look, hey, MySpace brought a lot of things together. It introduced me to a lot of music, as a matter of fact. There are definitely good things about social medias. But we were able to figure out whatever it was that we needed to do, whether that was going apartment to apartment and passing out flyers, or house to house, or car to car, or at the mall, walking up to people at the mall.
Oh, yeah, we did all those.
For the hair salon, yeah.
Oh, neighborhoods. The fancy neighborhoods.
And I think none of that really worked. But what
it really didn't at all. I never got a client that came in and said, "Yep, I got your flyer on my door, on my car. You handed it to me in the mall." Never, not one time.
But I think there was a lot to be said about the level of intention that we had.
Exactly.
And it was just trying new stuff. So we found something that didn't work. Fine, we'll switch and do something else, and then continuously do something else. But never when those things didn't work did I feel like I failed. I never felt like, well, maybe just I don't, and we didn't stop.
No, we just said, well, that didn't work. Like, what's the next try? Like, how do we try again? Like, how do we do this again? Approach this again? And I think that's what you mean by like not taking no as an answer. I didn't take that first no and like, well, that didn't work. I'm a failure. I suck at life. Like, so many people stop there. And that's like so sad to see, because it's like just right beyond that challenge, because you need to grow. You need to build your chops and your confidence. And like, you have to learn along the way. It doesn't just like, you're not just like VIP #1 expertise out the gate. I mean, you got to fuck shit up and you have to learn along the way. And so many people sit down when that first challenge comes up. And I obviously welcome the challenges just before, recording the podcast, like business challenge after business challenge. We're going to have 156 boxes, which are not just Oracle decks, but there are 30 Oracle decks in each box. 156 boxes we just learned are supposed to show up at our house.
Yeah, businesses always come with challenges.
Always.
Everything always. If you don't have challenges, you're just not doing anything. You touched on something else that's important we got to go back to, and that is, so you had the passion, you had the purpose, and then what I'm hearing you saying now is that you had faith that it would all work out.
I don't think it was faith in the beginning because I had a word for that, but it was definitely, looking back now, just this is what I want and I don't give a shit. I think it was more my ego driving things.
Sure.
But looking back over the whole experience, ultimately it is a faith in yourself and in that vision and that belief that you had. And my belief was, I'm going to be a really good, successful hairstylist, because people told me, including my mom, who was a hairstylist, that you're too smart. You shouldn't do that. Well, Mom, I'm so smart. I'm not going to go to college and take classes that don't interest me to put you guys in debt, which is already a problem. I'm going to follow my passion and figure it out. And that's exactly what I did. I mean, I walked out of the licensing test and into a salon and was like, hey, I'm about to get my license. Like, I'm ready to work here. I'd like to pay for a rental. And she said, can you pay rent? I said, well, how much is it? And she said, $200 a week. 150 part-time. And I just was like, 150 part-time? You got it. She handed me the keys right then and there. I hadn't even gotten the paper in the mail, and I thank her for that. So shout out to my first boss. I won't throw you under the bus or anything, but for giving me keys when I didn't even have my paper. But that just shows you that, like, people, when you are passionate, people will have faith in you. And it was so beautiful that she took that risk on me, because that, I guess, in turn gave me faith in myself. Like, oh my God, I can do this. This is possible. And there were days where I would drive 45 minutes to the salon to have my one haircut client cancel. No show. No, nothing.
Yeah, it's like in the beginning, you have the learning phase, which is hard, because you don't know what you're doing. And then right after the learning phase comes the testing phase, which literally everybody tests you. And that is the time to dial in your business. Like, you didn't have any kind of like repercussions for those kind of people. They just no-showed, and that was that. You were still accepting phone calls at night and writing everybody down in a manual calendar journal looking thing.
But it had Lisa Frank stickers on it.
But it did have Lisa Frank on it. That's true. But we didn't know what we were doing wrong. And I think that comes in when you start to not know and not figure out how can I make this better. It's really time to start studying other successful businesses or successful people and figure out what they were doing. And that's what we really started at that point. That was looking at what are other salons, what do they have in place, what are they talking to, how are they talking to their clients, how are they booking people, how are they showing up, what's the level of luxury that's offered, like what are the price points, like what is different? Like, how are they able to do it differently, and how are they able to succeed where we're stumbling? And being able to do that, so many people fail to do. They set up their business on day one, and however that happens, they just keep their business that way and just don't change it.
Well, it's interesting because we've used that model for every business that we've ever been in or created after that, from like the way you approached your real estate to my hair salon, to our photography company, to our coaching practice, to the online business. Like literally it's the same principles. It's the same formula for creating your own business. And you started creating those formulas when you were super young too.
Yeah, I was walking around and I was 6 years old. And
What is it with us 6-year-olds?
I don't know. Hey, it must have just been one of those, gifts. It just popped in there. So my parents are divorced, and I'm with my single dad. And I want to say at that time he was working at a florist. Actually, I want to say he was the delivery guy for a florist, if I remember right. And he was doing DJ stuff on the side because back in the day, my dad has a phenomenal radio voice. I mean, my voice isn't even a quarter of what he has. It's got a depth and a tone to it, very easy to listen to. I mean, he's great on the microphone, and so he would do sort of, DJ stuff on the weekend. So he would do private parties and wedding receptions like Friday and Saturday night to earn some extra cash because being a florist delivery person doesn't really, make a ton of money. So he was doing that, and we're walking through this market center where is at an electronics show, where they have, back then it was tape players and recorders and microphones and
Incredible
speakers.
universe.
Yeah, but like on steroids. This place was huge. Thousands of square feet of just people showing off their brand new gadgets. And so we go in there, and I start to get the idea as we're walking through there, like, why doesn't my dad just buy some of this stuff? And instead of working every weekend for a guy who makes, 9 or 10 times more money per show than my dad's making, why not just like get some equipment and do your own shows, do a little bit of advertising and sort of model the exact same business that his employer was doing, but do it for himself, and maybe get a few other people to work for him so that he can teach them to do sort of the same thing and make more money. And so I'm having that conversation as we're strolling. I'm like, hey Dad, why don't you buy some of this stuff and you can do the stuff yourself. And he kind of looks at me like he never had that idea before. And so we got the equipment and brought it back to the house, and boom, we got started with the business. And so I saw back then that there's a huge shortcut in life. And I don't know why people avoid this, and I don't know why it's not that obvious, but if someone else is doing something that you really want to be doing, you can model or watch them or ask them how they're doing, or read the books they put out or buy their online courses, and they will teach you exactly what they're doing for such a small cost. Remember, you can always make more money, but it's very difficult to get time. And so it's silly to spend years and years and years stumbling and screwing up and feeling like a failure when you could literally just pay for somebody to tell you most of the answers. Now, you'll have to change it for you because you're different than them. There will always be a degree to which you change. You can't exactly copy somebody, but you can shortcut yourself. You can realize what's not important, what is important, what we should add, what we should take away. And being able to do that and being able to see that from a young age really helped me be able to feel like if there was a business that I wanted to start today, if there was anything that I want, any kind of goal I wanted to accomplish or something that I wanted to do, someone else has mostly already done it. I mean, just look around at all the achievement that we have. There's so many people achieving so many. I mean, if you want to know how to get your health right, if you want to know how to get your money right, someone has been doing it, and they've been doing it fantastically. And they normally put out videos or podcasts. They teach you how to do it. And I just reeled that right in for us. I said, if we're going to learn how to do something, then why not learn it from somebody who knows how to do it? I don't want to waste the extra years. As I get older, I would always, at this point now, spend way more money just to save the extra time, just to not have to go through the hassle. It's become much more of a convenience, and I realized that I didn't value that in the beginning. We stumbled for longer than we needed to.
Yeah, but the truth is, it's not the lack of knowledge on what to do within a business that really stops people on this journey. It's the mindset that you have to take, like you talked about, being passionate, being resilient, most importantly, because problems are going to arise. It's not always going to be easy. You are going to learn so many challenging lessons that are annoying AF, but they are all to make you the expert. And like you talked about, you can't get your time back back, and experts have spent that 10,000 hours dabbling in whatever area that is to gain the knowledge. And when you get to that point, when you hit that level, you want to turn around and give that knowledge back to other people, because you're like, damn, I just spent, 20 years trying to learn to love myself. And now I know that there's a formula for that, or there's a formula on how to start a photography business, which that was, I think, the easiest business we've ever just jumped right in, started, like, boom, like have some clients. We know the formula for creating businesses. So the formulas are out there. People can look around no matter what they want to do. And like you said, someone's done it and probably done it very successfully. But then people think, well, who am I? Why won't they come to me? Well, they won't come to me because there's so many other people doing that. I hear people from hairdressers to life coaches to nutritionists to anything, saying to singers. So many people have that mindset of, well, there's already so many other people out there doing it.
This still comes back to passion and faith, because when you focus all of your energy, and this is for people who have trouble public speaking and stuff, when you focus all of your energy on the people or the thing you're delivering to, when you focus on their problems and how the only thing you care about is solving that problem, you're not in the equation anymore. What most people do is they keep thinking about themselves. What will people think of me? I don't deserve this. What people are thinking is, hey, I'm hurting. I need help. It would be great if someone came along and helped me. I don't care how tall they are, if they have 6 noses. None of that matters to me. What matters is I'm in pain. Think about it. Think if you were choking to death and somebody came up that looked like a gremlin and did like Heimlich and stopped everything. You would be like, oh my God, I love gremlins. I mean, you would be so happy. But here we are worried that we might help somebody so well that they're going to look at us and be like, I don't like what shoes you're wearing. It's unbelievable. You stuttered a couple times when you said stuff. I screw up all the time. And you know what? Nobody cares. Nobody cares, because when you help people and when you're passionate about helping people, it doesn't matter. All that stuff is just surface crap anyway. The only people who worry about surface crap are people who aren't doing anything, because they're not just dedicating their lives to helping something or going for a cause. And that's why they feel depressed.
Well, they are dedicated to looking for all the reasons why they can play victim to the experience.
And it's sad because it's such just a conditioned mindset. Like, feeling like a victim and playing the victim is just a story that you repeat. It's just a record that's on play, and you need to rip the record off and put a new one on. Like, that's all you really have to do. I know that sounds simplified, but all of our thoughts are only just patterns. They're just patterns that repeat themselves. And then we commit actions that reinforce those patterns. And so for us to start to have to live and do something different, when you really just require something different in your life, when not like you want to, but it's just like, I've got to do something different. Just like we talked about in the beginning. If you're not waking up in the morning being like, I love my life. Holy smokes, I'm so glad to be awake today, because it'd have been a total waste had I not woken up, because I'm about to just attack this day. I'm going to make it mine. I'm going to help people, and I'm going to feel good, and I'm going to fill my body up and make it feel good. And I'm going to tell the people around me that I care about them and that I love them, that they matter to me. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to work, but it's going to feel like play the entire time because I like what I'm doing. Like, if you're not doing that, you need to come up with how much it's costing you to stay the same way. And whether it's build a business, I love having businesses. It's so much freedom. I show up half the time in my jams. I like being comfortable. I like setting up the day and my schedule and having all that up to me. And if you don't have any entrepreneurial friends, you've got to get some. You got to get some to see how they're talking, to see how they're thinking, to see how they view life.
Set up their life. Yeah.
And just so you can see it. Because if you only think life is one way, you got to be around people who are doing it differently. So you can be like, it can blow your mind. Just watching them do stuff, you're like, wait, what? I mean, I remember when we figured out how to meal prep. When we talked to people who were doing meal prep, they're like, hey, I love doing this. And I'm like, you cook multiple meals at once? Like for the week? You don't cook every single time you walk into the kitchen? That's different. And it's being around people doing different things that will inspire you to do it differently, because before then you don't know that that exists. So that's why it's always great to be building up your network and talking to just a diverse amount of people, and just people who are interested in different things, especially people who are interested in the opposite of whatever it is that you're interested in. Like, you ought to be friends with Republicans and friends with Democrats and friends that are white and black and Asian and just everything in between. You got to be friends with a multiverse of people. That way you can really start to culture yourself and realize that you're living in a small bubble of thought. And the more people that you're around, the more that thought bubble will expand, because you will add into your repertoire of thoughts things that they're thinking, because it will come out in the language they tell you. And so, and read books if you can. If you don't have access to friends, you live out in the boonies and it's hard for you to figure out buy books. Same way. But buy books from different parts of the world, from people experiencing different things, from different religions, from different walks of life, poor, rich, doesn't matter. It just matters that you open up your experience because you want to be able to have a more complete picture of the world.
You know, meeting you definitely opened up my experience because I came from a small town country girl called, Farmersville, Texas. Like, I didn't know anything. I mean, you took me into Dallas, into the city, into your school, like private school. Like, I just had never seen that world before. I didn't really know anything outside of what I grew up with, of course, just like we all do. Now it's a little different. There's like internet, YouTube, like there's so much social connection and information happening, whereas we had just been on freaking AIM and AOL when we met on MySpace. Like, there wasn't that amount of information that was so accessible. So it really was important to surround yourself with people in person that could help expand your perspective. And when I met you, you were so driven in business, but I didn't have a business, like a real business background. I was dedicated and loyal. I've worked since I was very young. I've had multiple retail jobs. My shortest job was 6 hours because, listen, y'all, don't do anything you don't like. And I don't want to hang up your wedding dress or your prom dress. You can do that yourself. So I quit that in 6 hours. And I think so many people stick around for so long, even if it's like out of alignment. And I think something that was really admirable about your story is that you were so great at computer science and you went all the way through your junior year through college to pursue that path until until you had a turning point.
Yeah, so I'm in college my junior year, and I had been listening for probably 6 months to a year. I couldn't figure out what I really wanted to do. I mean, I knew I wanted to do something that had to do with psychology because I loved seeing people be able to change, people be able to be happier. There was a big passion for me, but I knew that I didn't want to necessarily be a therapist. Like, I didn't want to just sit across, I started realizing that whenever you pick a job or whenever you pick something that you're going to do for a huge chunk of your life, whatever that may be, you have to look at who are the people who are doing that and what is their life like. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to be like a police officer, and I wanted to be a firefighter, and I wanted to be an astronaut, but I don't want to go into space. Like, I don't want to get up in a rocket ship that could explode.
You won't even get on a roller coaster.
I don't want to do it. Look, I don't. I've gotten to a spot in my life where I refuse. And so, same way with everything else. I wanted to be a doctor. But you look at a lot of doctors' lives and you notice the amount of schooling they have to go through, the amount of, student loans they have to go through, the idea of malpractice suits and all kinds of stuff. I don't want to do that. And so when you're looking at a job, you have to look at what are people that are doing that. Even the successful ones, especially look at the successful ones because you should always be pursuing excellence. So you have to classify yourself as I'm going to be one of the successful one of these people. So what are successful people actually doing though? What's their life like? What's their relationship like with themselves? Do they like themselves? Do they like their partner? Do they spend time with their partner? Is it a happy relationship with the kids? Like, what really is going on? How many times a week do they have to spend with, how many hours do they have to spend with themselves? Like, you have to look at all this stuff. And when I realized I didn't want to be that in a therapist, and so I walk in, I've been listening to these Brian Tracy audios for like a year. And he's just saying a lot of the things that I needed to hear at that point, just about success, just about confidence, just about getting those things up, because I'd been in a private school with nothing but guys for years. And so now I'm learning, and I only had classes with 8 or 10 people. And so now I'm thrust into this college and I have classes that are like 500 or 1,000 people. I've got girls all over the place. It was a different environment. And so I had to pull myself back and get my mindset right and is schooling what I want to be doing. I had so many uncertainties. So I'm in my junior year. The basics are out of the way. All the nonsense you have to do those first 2 years are done. I get into my junior year, and I'm in a team software management kind of class. And I start looking around at the people who are in that class. And I start to have that realization. These are the people I'm going to be working with for the rest of my life if I stay doing this career path. And I'm looking around a little more. And what really occurred to me at my 20-year-old self was, where are the hot girls at? Now, I'm sure there are plenty of hot girl programmers out there, but there weren't any in my class. And so I took it as a thing to myself, I'm not going to see hot women. Like, where are they? And so that was enough to motivate me. I put my book inside my backpack. I zipped the backpack up. And that was the last time I went to that class. And as a matter of fact, that's the last time I went to school. So I'm thinking, I walk out to the foyer area where you can sit before class. And I'm kind of going in my head, I picked this pad, like, what the hell am I going to do now? Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to explain this to my parents. There's no way they're going to be able to understand. And I'm hungry, but I'm trying to wait for my friend to get out of that class. And so I go pick up a green sheet that's sitting next to the spot where I'm at. And I'm looking through this green sheet, and I'm thumbing through it, which is like, not a fun magazine, or it's not exciting. It's not an exciting magazine, black and white. And so I get to a spot that says, houses for sale. I'm looking at them. Hey, we got some houses for sale. That's pretty cool. One of these are big. One of these are expensive. And then I noticed a section beneath it that says, we buy houses. And I thought to myself, after listening to a lot of Brian Tracy, these people have not met before. These people definitely do not know each other. Because there is one person who has a problem. Their problem is, I want to sell this house. And another person that's got another problem that says, I want to buy. I thought, man, if I could just link up these people, that would be really cool. So I called them. I called all the people on the I Buy Houses, and I said, if I find a house for you to buy, would you be willing to look at it? And they said, well, yeah, that's exactly what I want to be doing. So I said, okay. I jotted down their number and everything. I called every single one of them, find out, what are you looking for? Where do you like to buy? What kind of price range? Like, what are you trying? Are you trying to flip the house? Are you trying to rehab it? Like, what's going down? You hold for rental? Like, what's the scoop? So they explained their little business model. I wrote down the notes of each one. And then I called all the people who had the houses for sale. And I said, hey, I am partnered with an investor, and I come out and look at houses, and I don't know that we'll be able to do a deal, but would you like me to come look at your house? Is it in good condition? And why are you really needing to sell? What's your story right here? I went out there and I found a deal. I left school. I did not get to meet my friend for lunch. I stayed hungry the whole day. But I was hungrier for a new opportunity. And so I drive out to these houses, not knowing anything about what I'm doing at all, but making it up, feeling like I can't screw up. I have faith. I have a passion that I want to get out of this school because there's no hot girls. So I drive out there. I end up putting a deal together and I end up selling it to one of those investors. So I never went back to school. That was my last day of college. And it was weird because I picked a path that I had not seen before, but it felt so right for me in the moment. It just felt like I was following opportunity. So often we're going through this river of life, but so many of us want to swim upstream. We want to go against the current. We want to try to avoid the rocks. There's so much that we battle. And a lot of life is getting back into the flow of it. And in that moment, I knew it was right. I didn't have to ask anybody. I didn't call my mom up, say, hey, Mom, what do you think about this opportunity? I didn't call my dad. Didn't call my friends. Nothing. I just drove out there, just on a hunch, knowing that I could easily screw up in some way, but so what? I screwed up before. It wasn't that painful, maybe a little. So always be looking for where you're resisting flow or where opportunities are. It would have been so much easier for me to have just gone back in that class, done more computer science, made a bunch of computer programs for doing things I don't care about, be stuck in a cubicle, have the super hunchback, have arthritis at this point. I noticed that I didn't want that. I noticed, and you can easily figure that out by looking at the people around you and saying, are these the people that I want to be like? Are these the people that I want in my social circle all the time? Or do I want to look for a different kind of opportunity with people who align for me? Computer stuff's right for some people. It just wasn't for me in that moment.
It's crazy because it only takes a decision. Like, you don't need to know the plan. You don't need to know the next step. You don't need to know what to do. You just need to have that like burning desire, that passion, that like, this is the path I'm going on. The clarity. That's what it is. You need clarity on the path that you're going on. But clarity doesn't mean that you have all fucking 50 steps that you need to do. Clarity means this is the desired outcome and direction that I want to go. That's the kind of clarity I'm talking about. Because if you think about my story with how I opened the hair salon and your story with how you got into real estate, like, we never knew the next step. We didn't know the plan. I didn't know how I was going to be able to pay for beauty school when I signed up and Dad was like, no, I can't help you. Sorry. I didn't know you were going to walk into my life with a business plan and an idea. Like, that was the cool part about meeting you, is that you had this like business mindset and I had a creative passion for beautiful hair. And I don't even know that I knew I was empowering people, but ultimately that feeling of empowering someone when at the end of the service, they're like, oh my God, I love it. I look so good. I love the way that I look. And we combined our powers together. And that, I think, is where so many people mess up, is they may be really good at business, but they're lacking that creative passion and drive behind the business that they've chosen, or they have that creative, on like artist vibe, if you will, like I was, but have no business sense or direction.
Yeah, which is exactly why you always either want a partner or a coach or an advisor or a mentor or somebody, because thinking that you're going to be good at everything. Look at almost any company. One person doesn't run the whole thing. Yeah, there's a person at the helm of the deal, but there is a slot for everybody. You need so many different people to help you. It's strange that I see so many people who were talking about earlier play the victim. So many people who will use those excuses refuse to reach out for help. They overwhelm themselves so they can feel like they were unable to do anything. And so that will match their, well, I'm a victim, this is not for me. The reality is we use so much help. We have so much help from so many people. And I'm so thankful to the people who came before me. I'm thankful to Brian Tracy, who made all those audios, CDs that made me understand about business. I mean, I was in college for other stuff, and he gave me so much business training, or at least enough knowledgeable ideas that I felt like if I didn't already have the plan or a way to do it, I would make up for it in action, and I would learn the plan along the way. Because you have to have this passion, purpose. You have to have a plan. Doesn't matter if the plan works. And then you have to put it into action. And whichever of those steps are the weakest, that's where you got to build up, and it will fill in from the other steps. And it happened for us in this. But I think that one of the key factors is that whenever you go through something, you learn from it. Like whatever relationship you've gone through, whatever ones that sucked, you learn from those relationships. I learned from college what I did not want in my life. I learned from real estate how to market. I also learned how to deal with rejection, because in the beginning, I started just door knocking houses. I was trying to door knock at least 100 houses per day. That's a lot of rejection. I got so used to rejection, it just no longer fazed me. So it didn't bother me anymore for people to say no. I knew the next one was right around the corner. I was just playing a numbers game. And so I learned how to accept rejection with ease. I learned about the marketing aspect, because real estate, a lot of it is marketing. And then it transferred over to the hair business. And then the hair business taught, at least for me, coaching. It taught me a lot more about what specifically women need or didn't have in their life, which opened me to a world I didn't even know existed. I mean, these are people, and they come from everywhere. Moms, teenagers, some people are super wealthy, some are not, from everything. And it was so wild for me to realize how much people beat themselves up on the inside. I mean, we know we all do it, but you don't realize to what extent other people do it. Most people will never share that with you. Your closest friends typically don't. Hey man, I just spend the whole week telling myself I'm ugly, I'll never amount to anything, and no one will ever love me. No one ever leads the conversation with that. They're like, hey, did you catch the game? Or hey, have you tried this new food place? Hey? And that's sometimes that's all you get, because you don't have enough time. When the hair client comes in, I don't know how it is for guys, but the women literally tell their hairstylists everything. If you thought a therapist knew their clients well, not like this. This is something totally next level. They share so much. And so what I learned is, where do people hurt? And it taught me how the world in a lot of ways views itself. And so I immediately came to, how can I help these people? I didn't necessarily see it as a business opportunity, but there was so much passion behind it. There's so much, now that I know that people are walking around feeling like this, no matter what their background is, no matter how beautiful they are, no matter what they've accomplished. I mean, you've had people who are so just printing money and gorgeous people, and they still dislike themselves. And I realized that hurting brought us to our next mission. And so when you have one big thing, it's not normally the only one. You know, if you have a big purpose or a big passion, it's not the only one a lot of. I mean, sometimes it is, sure. If you still feel that drive and that fire. Well, there was a moment at the hair salon. I don't remember how many years you were in, maybe 7 or so years in. And suddenly I see BRIT, she's getting ready in the morning, and I had this huge vision flash in front of my eyes, and she's up speaking and telling or empowering women on stage. You know, she's speaking. I had this huge vision all of a sudden. I'm just walking in. I'm going to walk her up to the salon. I love walking or driving her each time. So we're about to have that moment happen, and I see this massive vision as I walk in there. It's almost like my whole peripheral, everything just went out, and all I could see was this. And I tell Britt, like, hey, I just had this vision that you're up there being an inspirational leader to women. And she looked at me, and the amount of anger that she had in her eyes, and how much I thought, I didn't know that I just made somebody mad. She was so upset. I'm never going to do that. I will never be that person. I don't want to do that.
I just want to do hair.
Yeah. So.
Oh, we resist our calling, y'all. Whatever you're resisting is what you're meant to be doing.
Oh my gosh.
Unless it's getting into a sketchy situation. You should resist that for a reason.
Yeah. Opportunity's there. And sometimes it comes too early. Sometimes we see it a little early. I saw it early for us. You know, I didn't even know what that meant at the time. I had no idea what it was going to entail to stand up and speak. I had no idea what it was going to be like to have an online presence, to make online courses, to make physical products. Didn't know any of this stuff. None of this stuff we knew. I didn't know anything.
I knew how to do hair.
But I knew that you had a passion.
Yeah.
And I knew that you had faith that whatever your mind decided, whatever you programmed into that mind of yours, whatever it came out, you were going to do it. I knew that you had that. Now we had hypno in our back pocket. You know, being able to do hypnosis, which is, you know, such a shortcut.
Yeah, if you didn't catch that episode on how we use hypnosis as a shortcut for healing, go back and check out that episode.
We use it as a shortcut for everything.
Listen, if you want to hear what lights Chris up and gets his passion going, it is hypnosis because of the transformation it can provide for so many people.
So we did the same blueprint. When we moved, realizing that a lot of people needed coaching, a lot of people... And I say coaching, there's for some people that brings up a negative connotation. You know, and it is to some degree life advice. But you realize that the only thing ever holding anybody back is their mindset. There is nothing else. You know, it's all a mindset game. And so if you come up with a way to help people with their mindset, which is what Britt's talking about, that's what fascinates me the most. I mean, I'm so interested in how people change and what it takes and what they're doing differently than people that don't change. Like, that's really what drives me. I'm so interested in how the mind thinks because it gives us all of the rest of our life. So if we can influence the mind to feel better, we will immediately have a better life. It's just an indirect method. Everyone says, I want to be happy. And what people should say is, I want to change how I think. That's what we should really be after. Because if you can change how you think, you can automatically be happy. Not that every day will be positive, not that everything is going to go absolutely your way. Of course not. It was never set up that way. It never happened. You would not grow, you would not learn, you would not go through changes. All of our businesses in the beginning were, for the most part, failures. I mean, it took a while to get them running at all. You know, everything was a struggle. I'm trying to figure out how to make a web page, and how do you write emails, and how do you respond back to people.
That's so much.
It's a lot. But we use the same formula I used when I was 6. Other people are doing it. They've already been successful. So how can we study them? Yeah. All this stuff is learnable. I think that is the big fallacy that we tell ourselves, is that there's something out there that we can't figure out how to do. I mean, look at, we're sending people to Mars and stuff. I mean, all sorts of stuff is going on. And other people have already come to explain it for you. And that's what we should all be doing. In some way, we should always be sharing our knowledge. If it's cooking, if it's how to get better sleep, whatever that is, people want to know how to live a better life. That's the big secret. Everybody wants to know. How do I make this thing better? How do I take the struggly ass experience that I've got on this rock, and how do I turn it into something that I enjoy? And so much of it has to do with that passion and allowing yourself to see the opportunities when they came up. I mean, think about it. That's what got you on TV. I see you as this inspirational leader speaking to people, and boom, now all of a sudden you're on TV. I mean, it's just the opportunity is going to come. It's not near. Nature takes time, though. If you watch nature, it's all in nature's time. She's got like this perfect rhythm that she goes to. So sometimes our hopes and our dreams and our goals and the things we really want take time. We see everybody sort of at the end of their journey, having the life of luxury, and we think, oh, well, how come I don't have that? It took time. It took nature its time to figure out, or God, or creative intelligence, or whatever the thing is, to make the circumstances so that you could have that right opportunity to seize. For me, it was that silly-ass green sheet. I mean, that gave me the opportunity. I was already ready. I'd already been preparing myself because I've been listening to those Brian Tracy CDs. So I already knew what I wanted to do. I already had the power inside me. Now I just needed the opportunity. So what you're always really trying to do is make yourself bulletproof. It's to make it so that when opportunity does come at you, you are 100% mentally prepared. So you're able to take that on without wasting time. Because what
self-sabotaging.
What a lot of people do, they think negatively, and so it makes them procrastinate. The negative thinking is what causes you to procrastinate. It's, I could be doing something better with my time right now. And you burn that through with passion and purpose. Passion and purpose will burn through procrastination. It shouldn't exist when you're excited enough. If you've ever been excited about something, like think about that moment when you first fall in love with somebody. When you're just head over heels in love with somebody, it doesn't matter what's happening. If you had to crawl through 30 hours of mud to get to them, and you were on fire the whole time, you would still want to do it. You would still be excited because you have that passion inside you. And so you have to approach business or approach anything in life finding where that passion is. It doesn't mean you live on this high horse the whole time. There's no lull periods or anything like that. But if you want to actually accomplish something or you want to do something specific, you have to have that burning desire. Every single thing starts off with that kind of desire. And without that, it's almost impossible to do anything.
I think it's really important for you to think about, what is it that lights your fire? What is it that you're passionate about? What is it that brings you joy to do? And what could you do every single day of your life? Because as Chris mentioned, it takes time. They say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. So whatever it is you choose to do, you want to make sure that you're choosing something that you're willing to put in a good decade. You're willing to put in the time, the hours, and that you can foresee yourself enjoying everything that you do. I mean, even in the hard learning growth phases, you're willing to endure the pain of learning because you're so excited about the path that you're on and the experience that that's going to lead to. And if it's worth it for you, if you're that passionate about it, you'll break through the procrastination with the passion. But you have to first decide, you have to have that clarity on what is it that you want, not how do I get it, steps 1 through 50. That's for those analytical, overthinking warriors that feel like this for the Virgos, okay? It's for the Virgos. But it really is about...
We love you, Virgos.
Yes, we love you very much, Virgos, and we appreciate your schedules and your plans. But it's really about having that passion and that burning desire. That will lead you to that next opportunity, and where you mentioned that you are already prepared because you know exactly what you want. And when the opportunity shows up, you're like, this is what I've been preparing for. This is what I've been asking for. This is what I've wanted, and it's finally here.
It doesn't mean it will be easy.
No.
It doesn't mean that you won't be nervous. It doesn't mean that you won't have doubts come up. It doesn't mean any of those things. What it means is that you have the opportunity. That's all that it means. It's your job to, at that part, go past the fears and move into something positive and give yourself the best chance at making whatever ends up happening and realizing that whatever ends up happening is fine to happen. Because some opportunities you'll go up to, you'll do your absolute best, you're the most prepared you've ever been in your whole life, and it will still fall through. And the reason why that typically happens is because there's something better right around the corner. I think back to previous relationships or previous jobs that I've had or previous positions or even ways that I've thought. And I'm so glad they don't exist in my life anymore, because my life would not be as good as it is now. I wouldn't have the same kind of feelings, the same kind of just joy that I have when I wake up. And so a lot of times, the best things that we can have happen to us are the things that we think are the most painful, the most suffering, the why didn't this happen for me? No one out there in the world cares about me. How am I always unlucky? It's the unlucky things that really give us the blessings.
I think it's so beautiful to witness all of the hard parts that you've experienced within your business, like having $1 million deals fall through and, linger on like a string, and you never stopped. You never stopped pursuing, learning, and figuring out what it is that you wanted. You've always pivoted. Like, you've never wallowed for lengthy periods of time.
Yeah, that's what I see a lot of, and it's this is about studying against successful people and studying what do successful people do differently, how do businesses grow, and what I find is that the people who fail a lot linger a lot. They sit there and don't take any new action. They just do the same things, or they repeat that story. And when I find myself repeating a story more than a couple of times that I don't like, I catch myself and I stop doing that, because those stories become my life. And so if I keep repeating a story to myself, I'm eventually going to live that. I'm going to say it enough times to where I start to believe it. And then my subconscious mind goes, all right, now let's create those circumstances, because we want our thoughts to reflect what the reality is we're experiencing in front of us. And I can't do that. Like, I don't have enough time to sit and screw around with bad realities. I want to experience a specific kind of one. And so I have to create that myself. And I feel like that is always the power that you have in your own hands. You have the power to choose whatever thought it is that you want to think. That is the biggest power. You don't need other powers. You don't need to be able to fly. You don't need to be able to turn invisible. You don't need to do any of those things. As long as you are able to choose what you think, you can live the kind of life that you want to live. So many people just think negative thoughts all day long, and they wonder why it always rains in their reality.
So choose your thoughts wisely, choose your passions wisely, choose the actions that you're taking wisely, and make sure they always align with what it is that brings you joy, because when you're following what brings you joy, you're putting out into the world exactly what it needs, and you're serving your purpose. Your purpose, all of you, I'm going to answer that question that you have been searching for so long. Your purpose is to feel joy, and the way that you do that is your own unique expression for you to explore, for you to be curious, for you to figure out what are those natural talents, skills, and abilities and curiosities that you're interested in learning. How do they all align to make you authentically you? When you discover what those things are and you figure out how to give that back to the world, that is when you align your passions with your purpose, and you can make bank doing it.
Boom.
Boom. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you. If you love this episode, give it a like, a rating, a 5-star, a something, a this, a that, a share it with your friends, your family, shout it from the rooftops. We freaking love you, and we'll catch you guys next week. Peace. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life Podcast. Want more? Join us at theelevatedlifeclub.com for mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a new masterclass, meditation, yoga practice, and more to help you transform your life one step at a time.
Come join the 7 or Above Club.